all, welcome back to another video. This is Marriage Made Possible, where we believe that all things are possible, even happy marriages.
That's
I'm
right.
Jasmine,
And I'm Troy.
and this is baby Isla, so she's going to be present with us.
Yeah.
She's going to be present with us this week because she wants to be included in the video too. So I'm going to hold her while we talk about the topic that we have to talk about today,
Okay.
right? So last week we talked a little bit about how couples can have happy marriages,
Mm,
and just the fact that a happy marriage is possible,
that's right.
but there are certain things that you have to do as a couple, as individuals, in order to have a happy marriage,
Mm,
right? So, happy marriages, good marriages, they don't just form, on their own. You got to put in some work. So, marriage works if you work at it.
mm-hmm.
So, in our video last week, you made a very strong statement.
Okay.
And you said that divorce is not an option. You remember that?
I do. I do remember saying that.
All right. So yeah, so that's something that we definitely believe in, that divorce is not an option for us in our relationship.
hmm
But I want you to clarify just a little bit about when divorce might be an option for couples.
Um, I can see how a statement like that is like taking a loaded weapon and putting it on the table and a room full of people, and it's like, whoa, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Who is this for?
Yeah.
Who are we targeting here? Um, I'm not going to walk down my previous statement. I'm not going to retract it, but I do kind of want to edit it. And the first exception to that rule when divorce may be an option is when physical violence is at play. If you have a spouse that is being physically violent towards you, they are beating you, they just have no respect for you, and your life is in danger, you need to get out of there. You need to
Yeah.
exit that situation for your own safety
Absolutely.
and for the safety of your spouse, because they got a whole TV show about when one spouse can't take it no more and they kill the other spouse, or when another spouse goes too far and they accidentally kill their
Yeah.
spouse.
Out of anger. Yeah.
Right.
Definitely.
And that's not our goal. We don't want you to stick it out to that point.
Mm-hmm.
So divorce may be an option in that case. The next exception to the rule is when infidelity is at play. And I'm not just talking about there was a situation, you guys worked through that issue, because we do believe that couples that have battled that issue um, can go on and have
Mm-hmm.
happy marriages. We even know people that have
Yeah.
battled that and they have a happy marriage
Mm-hmm.
today. But what I want to talk about is when infidelity is it's the theme of your marriage.
It's a repeated pattern.
Yeah, it's a constant.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you might need to exit that situation, uh, just because of the damage that it does emotionally, and mentally. Um, you might just need to take a pause. That may look like separation.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and if, you know, unfortunately, that doesn't, you know, it doesn't get better from there, divorce may be, it might be the option.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think also it depends on, your tolerance,
Mm,
and what you are able to handle emotionally, mentally.
hmm
You have some people where they're okay if their spouse has, committed adultery,
hmm
um, and, cheated on them. And then you have some people where, they can't handle it mentally, emotionally. And so obviously we want what's best,
hmm
the physical health, the emotional health,
hmm
all those things, the mental, spiritual, all those things are important to you as an individual person.
That's right.
And so definitely with physical abuse, and then also a repeated pattern of infidelity within the relationship, might be two circumstances where
hmm
divorce, would be best for that couple.
Right. Um, I mean, those were probably the two biggest ones. So,
Mm-hmm.
with that being said, who are we talking to when we say, divorce is not an option?
Yeah, so I think like the couples that, you may have been together for a while and you're like, oh, we've drifted apart. You
Mm.
know, my spouse don't make me happy anymore.
Mm.
You may have difference of opinions as far as, you know, parenting or finances or in-laws,
Mm.
and it, you know, and those difference of opinions has just caused, you know, continual conflict within the relationship, and you're not getting along, and, you know, all those different things. I think we're definitely talking to those couples where you have decided, like, okay, we're married for better, for worse, and then, you know, later on down the line, you're ready
Worse.
to, right.
Worse happens.
Worse happens. Worse
You're
happens,
like, I'm out
right?
of here.
Right. And you're out of here.
Mm.
Like, those are the people that we want to talk to. Those are the couples where we say, you all need to make up in your mind right now, you know, as you're listening to this video, that for us, divorce is not an option.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, those are the couples that we're talking about. So what can couples do then, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you're, because I think that is what scares a lot of people away from marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because you make this covenant, you're, you know, you're in this relationship and you're not happy,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or you have issues.
Right.
What can those couples do?
Wow. So that's a excellent question. I think one thing that couples can do that are in that situation is they can get counseling,
Mm-hmm.
um, individual counseling, couples counseling. Look, this is coming from a guy who did not believe in counseling. I'm a veteran. I'm a first responder. I don't need counseling. That's not for me. That's for, you know, somebody who's weak, somebody who's whack. You know, I got this.
Weak and whack.
Yeah, weak and what? WW. Um, but I just want to say that I'm an advocate for counseling.
Now
Um,
you are, yeah.
Not just because my wife is a counselor, but yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So individual counseling and couples counseling. So you more than likely you come into marriage with some type of baggage,
Everybody does.
because nobody is perfect, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I really thought that because I grew up in a two-parent household, my parents are still married, like, I felt like I was good. I felt like I knew everything about marriage.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like I had a good self-awareness,
Mm.
you know, on myself when I came into marriage. But I realized, like, once you got into marriage, it's a different experience.
Mm-hmm.
And so definitely individual counseling
Mm-hmm.
has really helped for both of us. So you as an individual, me as an individual, just receiving that counseling was really important. And then also couples counseling.
Mm-hmm.
So you have issues that you more than likely will come into the relationship with for whatever reason. And then being married to your spouse, depending on, you know, how you all have handled the care of the relationship over, you know, whatever time period y'all have been together,
Mm-hmm.
you probably you're probably going to need some couples counseling too,
Mm-hmm.
somewhere along the lines.
Yes,
So
issues and topics arise.
yeah.
And we just want to say everybody has some sort of baggage. It might be a little Louis Vuitton suitcase, or it might be a
A
full
tote, a Kate
a,
Spade tote.
a case. It might be a full luggage set. I mean, it might just be, you know, you got baggage on baggage.
Yeah.
But everybody has some sort of baggage,
Mm-hmm.
and if you don't think you do,
Ask your spouse.
right.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
definitely. So you do come into the relationship with baggage. And then, like I said, depending on how you all have handled the relationship, 9 out of 10, the relationship is going to cause something on the inside of you
Mm-hmm.
that you're going to need somebody to talk to.
Mm-hmm.
And so counseling is an option to be able to help couples.
Mm-hmm.
Accountability is another great, you know, way to help
Yeah.
in the relationship.
Yeah, this is something that Jazz and I are big believers in. We actually had two accountability couples.
Yeah.
Shout out to them. But some of you are like, "What is accountability? Who do I need to be accountable to in my marriage?" Well, an accountability couple is a couple that's locking arms with you and saying, "Hey, we want to walk this thing out with you step by step because we want to see you win,
Succeed.
right? We want to see you succeed." And so, when you have an accountability couple, you are giving this couple access to your marriage. It's not your mama, it's not your daddy, it's not your cousin them, it's not your best friend. is somebody.
Somebody on the outside,
Yeah.
right, that can
Mhm.
be able to, that's first of all mature,
Mhm.
within their own relationship. Not saying that they're perfect, but
Mhm.
they're mature. Somebody that have been married for at least a couple years.
Mhm. Longer
Somebody,
than you.
yeah, longer longer than you. And so that is an accountability couple. And so we have our accountability couple that we started being accountable to the year before we got married, and
Mhm.
they're still right up to this day walking alongside us.
Mhm.
And then we also have our small group leaders, a couple that we are able to turn to and talk to when we have, marital issues and challenges within our marriage.
Mhm.
And those two couples that we have in our life, they are, God sent, because I say all the time, like, I don't know where we would be if we
Mhm.
didn't have them to lean on, especially within the first couple years of our relationship.
Yeah.
We were able to lean on them a lot,
Mhm.
and they were able to help us a lot within those first couple years of marriage, and even now.
Mhm. Yeah. Everybody needs to be accountable to somebody. Everybody needs some sort of accountability. Fellas, sometimes you need another man to yank your chain and say, "Hey, man, you're messing up. You need to keep it in the road, big dog, because you
Yeah,
are swerving." Ladies, sometimes you need another lady
you
that
know,
that can tell you, "Hey,
yeah,
tighten up, because the way you're acting is not okay."
right,
So accountability couples are big. You are giving these people access into your life to, basically to check you,
mm-hmm.
with love. That's the biggest thing, is it's with love. It's not in a disrespectful manner, because
Yeah,
at the end of the day, they just want to see you succeed.
right,
And if you've chosen the right accountability couple, 9 times out of 10, they've been where you are, and they
right,
can help
yes.
walk it out with you and walk you through it.
Yeah. And I'm laughing because I remember there were times like within year one
Mm-hmm.
where we would go and talk to, I would go and talk to my accountability woman. Is Her name is Delana. And, they would kind of laugh sometimes because it's
Mm-hmm.
like what we thought was so important, it was the end of the
End of the
world.
world issue.
They were like, oh, this is nothing. Like, we've been there.
Mm-hmm.
And.
Yeah.
So I also want to say that accountability is not your work husband or your work wife.
Mm.
Accountability also is not your best friend.
Nope.
Like, you don't want to go out and, talk about the intimate issues in your
Mm.
relationship
Mm-hmm.
with just random people in your life, or
Mm-hmm.
people that, are friends or family members or whatever. You want
Mm-hmm.
to keep the issues in your relationship, take those issues to a safe place.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why we say accountability counseling is another great environment
Mm-hmm.
to be able to talk to someone. I remember when we, year one, I would go out and, we would get into an argument or something like that, and
Mm-hmm.
I'll run back home and, talk to my mom, or talk to, a
Mm-hmm.
friend or something like that. And I'm not saying those people, were, bad to talk to.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, I needed a safer place,
Mm-hmm.
to talk to, someone that can hold me accountable and kind of get me back in the right way of
Mm-hmm.
thinking about my marriage.
Yeah, and I would encourage you not to do that, because when you go talk to, that friend, or you go talk to that family member, a lot of times, unless you have a parent that can really, really, really just be neutral,
Right. And
um,
unbiased.
you are literally ripping the covers off your spouse in the
Yeah.
middle of the night and exposing them.
Yeah.
And next time they come around, mom and them,
They'll be
everybody,
giving you the side
right, everybody
eye.
looking at you crazy.
Yeah.
You and your spouse been and worked out the issue. Everything is good.
And your
And
family is still looking at your spouse,
right.
in a different way, because you've gone and told them,
Mm-hmm.
the
X,
issues
Y,
that y'all were
Z.
having.
Same thing with the best friend.
Yeah.
Thankfully, my wife has great parents that we were just able to
Mm-hmm.
talk to, and they were able to remain neutral,
Mm-hmm.
until we, took that step and just really started leaning on our accountability couple,
Yeah.
and using them like we're supposed to.
Yes. Yeah.
Last caveat on accountability couples is they need to be somebody that you guys both agree on. You need to know both of them. It doesn't need to be, well, I'm accountable to this couple over here, and
That's a good point.
your husband don't like that dude,
Yeah. Or there's no connection.
right,
Yeah. I
yeah,
think it's important for for you all to choose a couple that you both agree on, where
Mm-hmm.
you can talk to this person, where you feel like you can trust this
Yeah.
person. And I think that's a good point because you knew our accountability couple. I didn't know them,
Mm-hmm.
but we were able to sit down and build a relationship with
Mm-hmm.
them. And I knew that it was from God because I
Mm-hmm.
was able to connect with the wife
Mm-hmm.
instantly.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's an important part to bring
Right.
up. Apart from counseling and accountability, the last thing that you can really do to help your relationship
Mm-hmm.
is to just have some self-awareness
Mm-hmm.
and to become self-aware and examine yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a really good point to bring up because a lot of times in relationships you can blame your spouse for what's going on in the relationship when actually you are responsible for showing up a certain way that might be triggering your spouse or causing them to respond in a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
So just being self-aware and examining yourself is really important in order to have a happy marriage.
Yeah. When I think about not having self awareness, I think about driving a commercial vehicle. I'm a fireman, so we'll say a fire truck, and you have no idea how wide it is, how long it is, and you are just on the highway making turns, swerving and hitting everything. You have no awareness. It's the same thing in marriage. If you don't have any self awareness, you're a loaded gun, and
Yeah,
you're just
you're
going
probably
off.
causing a lot of damage
Yeah,
within
essentially.
the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And so with self-awareness, you have to be able to examine yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be able to ask yourself this question, like, am I the problem?
Mm. Ouch.
Yeah, right. Because what if it's not your spouse? So I know with
Uh-oh.
I know the earlier years within our marriage, like some of the issues we were dealing with, I always blame Troy. Like, oh, it's his fault that
She
I
did.
did.
Oh, sorry.
It's his fault that I'm about to blame him now. It's his fault that I did so and so. You made me so
Mm-hmm.
and so. All these different things. I was always pointing out at him.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until one day that the Holy Spirit spoke to me and he was like, Jasmine, what if it's you?
Mm.
Like, just what if he's not doing what you are constantly saying he's doing, or he's not the way that you think that he is? I'm
Mm-hmm.
trying to get my words.
Mm-hmm.
But like, what if it's me?
Mm.
And when I accepted the fact that, okay, like, what if it's not him? What if I really do have a problem? I want to say that's when our relationship started to take a turn.
Mm-hmm.
When I stopped pointing at you and I started to consider the fact that, like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, what if I do have some issues,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah, it was at that time that I kicked my feet up and looked towards heaven and said, "Thank you, Lord, because I'm perfect for fixing this woman." No, I'm kidding. I actually came to the same realization maybe shortly after you
Yeah.
did. It took me a little bit of time after you, but I came to the same realization that, hey, I'm the common denominator here. Hey, it's not Jazz I'm blaming this issue for. It's me.
Yeah.
I'm the one.
Yeah.
Like, I'm looking to the left, I'm looking to the right. She didn't even do anything this time. Like, this is just me.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so this is an issue that I need to address.
Mm-hmm.
So self-awareness is big. You need to be aware of your issues. You need to be aware of past traumas, hurt. You need to be aware of your triggers. You need to be aware of that little itsy bitsy thing that you thought wasn't a big deal, and you brought into marriage with you. You swept it underneath the rug, and the rug done been ripped off,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, oh,
Yeah.
I didn't know that was still there.
Absolutely, because marriage is like a magnifying glass.
Mm.
And so you can have things before you get married to your spouse. You can have things that maybe you dealt with and, like, it was like 10%, right?
Yeah.
Like 10-20%. It will happen every now and again. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
maybe you had a close friend or a
Mm-hmm.
family member or a boss or a coworker that kind of said it, but you didn't really think anything of it, right? Like, it's the other person, it's not me. But when you get married, those small issues that you thought weren't big or
Mm-hmm.
important, it's like it's a magnifying glass,
Oh
and
yeah.
it magnifies all of your your issues, your weaknesses, your flaws, all those different things are magnified in marriage because I can't get away from this person, right? Not if you're doing it the right way, right? Like you're constantly reminded.
That sounds bad.
It does sound bad. I don't know a better way to say
I
it.
can't get away from this person.
Yeah, but no, you're with
Divorce
that
is not an
person,
option.
right? You're with that person though,
Right.
and so it can definitely magnify some of the issues that you thought weren't a big problem before marriage.
Yeah. It definitely can put you underneath, the microscope. So, just hammering home self-awareness and taking care of those issues. If you're not married, perfect time to take care of those issues. Hey, I need to deal with this. I need to deal with that. Whatever it is. Not saying that you have to be perfect coming into marriage, because you don't, because marriage is two imperfect people coming together. And that's one of the things that makes marriage, it makes it fun, it makes it interesting, but it can also make it difficult because you have two different people with two different backgrounds, two different walks of life. And I don't care how close you were before marriage, how tight you are. This is my best friend. There is something there. Y'all may not have the same favorite color. There's something different about y'all. I don't care how close you are. But you have two imperfect people, two different people coming together as one.
One under one union. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like what you said also about triggers and trying to identify your triggers when you're in marriage. And so like know, and that comes with being self-aware. Know what your triggers are. If you can take a second to do some self-reflection, like what are some repeated arguments that my spouse and I get into? What are the common themes of the argument? Is there a same theme in this argument? It might be a different circumstance, situation, but is the underlying theme the same? Do we always argue about this? It always comes back to this.
Right.
And if you can pinpoint and identify what that issue is, that can be the first step in helping you identify what your triggers are as a couple and as individuals.
Yeah. We have a couple that they say marriage is one big trigger party.
Yes.
And it's true, because there are things that your spouse might not even know. They might not even know they need to tiptoe around this topic, or walk on eggshell. You shouldn't be walking on eggshells in marriage, but they need to tread lightly with this topic because you have history here, or there's a traumatic event that stems from this issue, and they could say something or do something and you're triggered, and you go from 0 to 100 and they're like, wait a minute, and it's not even them. It's something that happened to you in your past, something that you haven't dealt with, something that is still an issue. And sometimes your triggers can trigger your spouse.
Yes.
And so now both y'all are triggered.
Right. And that can be just a destructive environment.
Yeah.
So we definitely will advocate for, counseling. You can, get counseling at your church if you're part of a ministry. A lot of employers offer counseling through EAP. So, look into whether or not you can receive counseling through your employment. Definitely get some accountability, y'all. And pray about who, you are supposed to be accountable to. That's something that Troy and I did. We prayed about it, and God sent us the right couples to be accountable to. That was a blessing to our relationship. And then the last thing we would say is to definitely get to a place where you are examining yourself on a regular basis. And see how are you showing up in the relationship, and stop always pointing the finger at your spouse, and really start looking within to see how you can show up better as a spouse and as an individual person.